there's a number of questions that are along the lines of, where have you been when Hamas shoots rockets on Israeli civilians? Okay, could you please speak to this is for Peter Weiss, could you please speak to the transgression of international law perpetrated by Hamas in basing military activity in schools or hospitals? Or has Hamas not done that?
I thought I made it clear in my remarks from the podium that I consider the rockets from Hamas to be a violation of humanitarian law. The launching of missiles against exclusively civilian populations is as much a violation when it kills 20 people than when it kills nearly 1,000. It is still a violation. And many of us have urged that the solution of this conflict end all violence. I made that clear also, so I'm not sure whether I'm missing the question or whether there's something else involved here.
Just to give a little history, Hamas only began to target, and I'm not defending the action because I certainly agree with you, it is a clear violation of international law, as Richard Falk has repeatedly said, but they only began to target, I'm giving you Hamas's argument, Israeli civilians after the 1994 massacre by Baruch Goldstein in the mosque in Hebron. 30 Palestinian worshippers gunned down and killed, dozens wounded. Goldstein, who was a Jewish settler from Kiryat Arba, was rushed, overpowered, and killed. At that point, Hamas's feeling, and of course, if you look at the numbers, it's disproportionate in terms of the number of Palestinian dead versus Israeli dead. It was 5-1 before this conflict, and now we're running, of course, much higher than that. The total number of Israelis killed by rockets, I think, is about 20, and the number of Palestinian dead runs up until this current incursion about 5,000 since the year 2000. And so that was Hamas's raison d'etre for lashing out at Israeli civilians. I think it was a misguided one. I think it was wrong. I spent a lot of time with Hamas leadership, Rentisi, Nizar Ryan, who was just died in a targeted assassination with his 4 wives and 11 children. I knew very well, but I'm giving you that argument. And their argument was, when they stop killing our civilians, we'll stop killing their civilians. I think it's also important to realize that there was a truce that was negotiated by Egyptian intermediaries in July, and it was Israel that broke the truce. And we know Israeli reporting in Aretz and other newspapers that this operation has been 6 months in the planning, and that on November 4th they went into Rafah, carried out a brutal strike that killed a number of Hamas fighters and got the response, created the provocation that they wanted. Hamas fired rockets. This gave them the excuse to virtually shut down Gaza, begin a naval and air bombardment, and carry out an incursion. That's the history. That is the reason Hamas gives for carrying it out, and that's the background that leads to it.
One of the obligations of international law is to exhaust all peaceful means of resolving a conflict before resorting to force. And I think it's absolutely clear that Israel did not do that, and that could have